Okay, go ahead.
But anyway, she was telling me, at one time, she was sitting in the living room and she was having some back problems and stuff like that, so she was sleeping in a recliner a lot of times, and she would put her kids to bed. And they were still fairly young. I mean, they were 7, 8, getting to bed for school the next night, and she would hear stuff in one of the bedrooms, like sound like kids playing. It's like, she getting up and, fixing to get on to look, you got to go to bed. And so she would go in there, and it happened on several occasions. She would get up and go in the room. The playroom is where she heard it. There's nobody in there. She looks in on the kids, and they're sound asleep. It's like, wow, that's some serious stuff there. And then she said, one or two times she saw something look out from the playroom at her, and she went down there. There was nothing there. So she had gotten actually air blown on the back of her neck one time, sleeping in that recliner. It got so bad that when she got so scared of it, she started sleeping in the bed regardless of her back problem or not. But I said, well, look, why don't you talk to your husband, see if we can't come in there and do some investigate, see if we can't find some answers. And he never would give the okay, so we just kind of left it alone. But that was one of the places I've always wanted to go in there with that kind of activity and stuff. And like I said, I've known this lady for a long time.
Well, too, let's face it, some of these old homes, out in the country, I mean, when people died, they actually planted or buried the people, I should say, on the property. And it was quite common,
right.
And you never know. So, and then on top of it, let's say you buy a house, right? It's a new house. You don't know what was there before that. And
exactly.
And a lot of times if you go back, before the 1900s, I mean, people were, buried where they died at, pretty much, too. So, I mean, a person could, on their property have, some what's left of bodies floating around there. So then they could probably maybe have spirits, ghosts or...
Any populated area that you have, well-populated area, where it's going to have some kind of history. Somebody died in this location, regardless. If it was this house or the house that was built here before, or the land that was...
It's been wars fought on many lands before there's a home there,
Something has happened, in a lot of locations that people wouldn't really think about it.
Well, don't forget, too, it was quite common, for many, many, many years. When somebody died, right, they had their body, in the parlor for, friends and relatives, could, come and look at the body and have a wake and, and have a potluck and all that stuff. And, they maybe laid there in their coffin for a day or two or three. And maybe when they were buried, their spirit's still in that house.
Yeah. Especially, most time, people died, back in old days, people died in their house or died on, in that area if they were sick, whatever. But, it's just so much unexplained stuff. We still, and you'll never get all the answers to everything.
I mean, it's just something that we're gonna keep going because I mean it's something we enjoy. I mean it's a break from the norm, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, have you had any people label you by any chance? I mean, I hear it ever so often. When I have a guest on, they said that was the type they're So I have had like people who have been lawyers, doctors, dentists on the show interviewing them. And, it kind of gets around that, oh, hey, they saw a UFO or they saw a Bigfoot or, or Mothman or black-eyed children or something. And all of a sudden they get labeled,
Yeah, I mean, you got people that ridicule and make fun, I mean, we've got them, I just kind of look at them, to each his own, I just kind of look at them and they make their little jokes and I just, move on and, go on. But it doesn't bother me. My philosophy is the only opinion that really matters is the opinion of yourself.
Oh, so true. So true. But you know what? The paranormal has opened up so much in the last 10 years. 15 years ago, if you would have said, hey, I saw a Bigfoot, people would have said, oh boy, this guy is way out there. Now, you still kind of get labeled that if you see a Bigfoot in the ground telling people. But if you go out and tell somebody, hey, I saw a UFO, then it's 10 years ago. If you said you saw a UFO, you got labeled as a crackpot. Now, if you say, hey, I saw a UFO, tell me about it. They don't even think about you as being a crackpot. I mean, it's changing, and it's changing fast. The paranormal.
With the social media and the cable shows and everything else, it's become mainstream to where people are coming out. Because for the past 10 years or so, the cable shows have been just like flooded with different paranormal shows of hauntings and ghosts and just different stuff. See, so people are watching that, and it's becoming mainstream to where we run into people all the time, going to or from one of the locations that we're at, and we'll stop to get gas. And of course, like I said, that mobile trailer
rolling billboard.
Yeah, it's a rolling billboard. So they see it, eye catch. Oh, you're on TV? It's like, no. We tell them, we got a YouTube, and kind of talk to them a little bit, and then they start telling us, about stories, locally, or something that happened when they were a kid, and just people are free to talk about it more now, and not worried about people thinking they're nuts.
Well, also too, we've had kids that just love the paranormal, and they have came up there and we've showed them, some of the equipment. Someone approached me just last week, and had their nephew is autistic, and he loves the paranormal. So, and he wanted to meet us, so we're going to bring the trailer up for him, give him a couple of shirts and everything, give him a tour of the trailer, stuff like that. If you're labeled, so be it. Sometimes it pays off.
Oh, I think it does. I think what you guys are doing needs to be done. The other issue I have are, there was like one cable channel, national cable channel that had a ghost show on it, and when the guys left, he did tell me he believes in ghosts, and he's had a lot of seen things that was totally unaccountable. But what he told me is that a lot of times they would go out and they didn't find anything, and the network would, because that's who's paying the bills, would tell them go back, film some more, and fake it.
Yeah, make something up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that does damage, not just the ghost hunting. It just does damage to the whole paranormal field, period.
They see ratings, they're under pressure to get ratings.
And a lot of times, what we do is really not that exciting. We stand around this old building sometimes, or
talk to ourselves.
Yeah, talk to ourselves, or talk to a machine. Hey, make this thing do this. Hey, can you do this? Is there anything here? Talk to us. And you get nothing. And you can't sell that kind of stuff because it's boring. It's like, doing our live feeds, we sometimes forget about our live feeds being on, while we're sitting there doing EVP sessions or whatever. Forget about it. It's like, nobody's watching now, so why are we even on this? Because we're bored. We're boring, we,
But that one time, that one thing can be an adrenaline rush that you can't beat, man.
Yeah, the Buzz Lightyear falling over.
Oh,
that was crazy.
And you could
the walking steps, or the steps up in Yoakum.
Yeah. When you have footsteps walk up right beside you, that tends to get your juices flowing, man. Those few
Moon
times
River Brewery,
it's worth it.
The Moon River Brewery, that did not get anything on audio or video, but I know what I heard with my ears.
I did too. He had the prostitute calling him,
Oh, wow.
We were packing up for the night. I probably told y'all the story before, but we were packing up at Moon River for the night, and we did Sorrel the next night, didn't we?
Yeah, we did 2 nights.
And we were packing up, getting ready. It's like 5 in the morning, getting ready. Nothing really's happened, so, I'm rolling up the last bit of cord, picking it up, and I reach down to pick it up, and I hear my name called, like a really low woman's voice. And I was like, I just stopped what I was doing. I turned back and I looked. Just call my name? Because then you get that thinking, like, did I really hear that? And Doyle comes upstairs and, like...
I see this confused look on his face.
And he's like, so I think I just heard my name called.
Well, let me tell you. That was one of the first ones I ever did was Moon River, and I actually caught a disembodied voice on video. You can actually hear it. It's very loud. So that's where I wanted to concentrate at, you know. So I was up there by myself, and Donald and his wife, you know, I didn't know exactly where they were at that time. And I heard Donald's voice call. It was just loud enough you wasn't sure, did I actually hear that, you know, or what, you know. And of course I was looking at the window and everything, but I didn't mark it because well, maybe I didn't, you know. And then when he tells me that, well, I got on the radio and I asked, you know, where they were because it's a female's voice. I wanted to make sure it wasn't his wife, you know, anywhere within earshot. And they were all the way in the basement, so I mean, something like that, you can't document it, but I mean, it was a personal experience we both had, you know.
That's when I said I will not cut my recorder off until, you know, we are leaving the venue or leaving the place. I'm always going to have an audio recorder going.
Well, see, when you guys get that type of stuff, you know you got something. So I know if I got something, it would give me all the more wanting to get more and more and more, you know, just if anything to prove to myself that something out there, which I wouldn't know what it is existing. And, you know, I have people on the show that they said, well, ghosts aren't really ghosts. Basically what it is like a tape recording in a loop. And that is just left there. And I disagree with that because I don't think a ghost could open up a refrigerator door or open up and close a cell door or move things around, you know, and all of the stuff I've been hearing since I've been doing the show almost a year now. I mean, I've heard so many different things that, and from very credible people.
Right. That makes a big difference too.
Now, if somebody wanted to get into ghost hunting, okay, and what type of stuff would they need to buy, you know, to do basic ghost hunting? And I heard people say you don't really want to go to cemeteries and try to get anything because it's not going to be anything there. Is that true or not? I mean, are cemeteries basically dead for, you know, picking up voices or anything on a digital recorder or anything or a magnetic recorder?
A lot of contamination.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of, like, any kind of outside stuff, you know, you're going to have, depending on where you're at. I mean,
you still got crickets. You got everything else. You know,
that's what we deal with
rustling.
Here, you know. You've got, you know, animals. You know, you're gonna have to deal with animals. You know, depending on where you're at and how close you are to a city or town. You know, you're gonna have, you know, you're gonna pick up stuff from cars and people talking. You know, maybe
trains
down the road
somewhere around.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of places we go, there's a train somewhere. And they tend to run during the middle of the night when we're doing our stuff. You hear the horns and hear it go. I was like, yep.
Well, where I live, there's an old cemetery, about 5 miles from me, or even less than that. And, you know, I went there back about 5-6 months ago with my little recorder. But I never checked the place out, really. You know, I drove by it, and I go, oh, this is really old. So, you know, I kind of waited till it was getting dark. You know, I parked in front of it, you know, got my flashlight out, did some walking around, turned the recorder on, and I heard, you know, like children, you know, playing type of sound. Well, no, I debunked it. The next day, I went there when it was broad daylight. Yeah, there were fir and pine trees at the back part of the cemetery, but 50 feet farther, there was a backyard of somebody's house.
Huh, yeah, see? That's good debunking there, you know?
Well, I came to...
You got stuff and then you go back. It's like, oh, well, darn, you know?
Well, I came to the conclusion it was probably the kids playing in the yard, you know, before they get called in at night, before it got too dark. And boy, that night I went home. I was so excited. I let my wife hear it. I had it all geared and loaded in to, to play on my show the next day. Thank God I actually went back the next day and just wanted to check it out a little bit more.